guys, it's Blender Kid here, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to make the red cube that crumples in my intro. So, it's actually fairly easy. First, like always, you can delete everything, although I probably shouldn't have deleted the cube, and then just add another cube, and then you can scale it by pressing S and then Y, and scale it by, let's say, 5. It's a nice long brick now. Then you can go here, press this little button up here, snap, so that it will snap when you move it around. So then you can press G and then move it up so that it's aligned with the lines on the bottom, so the green line. So then, after that, you can press S to scale on the x-axis by, okay, so then we can go here and we can change whatever we want with these sliders. So I want it to be, let's say that thin. That's not how thin I made it in the video. So we can put it like at 1. No, not there. There. Oops. There. Okay. Now, what we want to do is break it into a bunch of pieces using an add-on. But before we do that, you need to decide if you're going to have something smashing into it so it breaks really small in one spot, or if you just want the whole thing to be pieces. If you just want it to be pieces, you can skip this step. But if you want like a ball or a wrecking ball to hit this or something like that, then you need to go over here and get the annotation pencil out and go up here and select surface instead of 3D cursor. And then wherever you want the ball to hit, or your object to hit it, you're going to put some lines. For me, I want it to hit in the middle here, so I'm going to draw some lines on the surface of the cube, and then that's perfectly fine. So now you can just enable the cell fracture add-on. So you just go to edit preferences and add-ons, and then you type in cell fracture. Then you check this box and you're good to go. So now you select your object and you go to object, quick effects, and there's a new selection down here called cell fracture. When you click this, it's going to bring up this mini menu, and we just use the annotation pencil to do that. So then you would choose annotation pencil. But if you're skipping the annotation pencil step, then you do own verts, which uses the vertices of the rectangle cube. So if you don't want to use the annotation pencil, do that. But for now, we're going to use this. Then you can turn up the source limit to however many pieces you want. For now, I'm just going to leave it at the default. Then you can turn on recursion, so when it breaks further. I just turn that to random. And then in my intro, it has the pieces have 2 different materials. On the outside, it's a metallic red, and on the inside, it's neon blue. If you want that, you have to turn this to 1. Then if you want all the segments to be into a collection, which is what I highly recommend because it usually comes out with hundreds of pieces, or the source limit. So just type in a collection. I'll just say cells for now. And then I'm going to press OK to make that happen. But first, I'm going to go in here and add 2 new materials. The first material, let's make it exactly like the my intro. I'm going to make it red. We're going to turn this metallic bar all the way up. Then we're going to go down to roughness and turn that down to where it looks like a metallic red. To about there. That's a nice shiny metallic red. Then we go up to our material 2 and we go, instead of principled BSDF, go to emission. And then you can choose whatever color you want for both of these, or material, it doesn't matter, as long as you have 2 of them. So I'm going to set this to 5, because that gives it some more stuff. And then if you're going to use this in a render, I recommend turning on screen space refraction. That would help. Then you're all good to go for materials. So then it X's out our thing, so we have to click this again. So quick effects, cell fracture. So since we didn't press OK, it didn't save our stuff. So we have to select everything again. So you have to turn material to 1, because if you don't, it will not apply the second material to your stuff. So now we don't need to mess with any of these settings. That's for in detail, or just copying the tutorial. And then just press OK, and it's gonna start making the cells. And then when everything is highlighted, you're done. So you can look around, see how it's centered in where the annotation pencil is, how there's giant chunks on the sides and a whole bunch of little chunks in the middle. That's what we want. So now we can go to the annotation pencil and delete that note because we don't need it anymore. And then what we can do is we can close out this collection. Actually, no. What's this? And then we can take our original cube and delete it, because it would cause glitching and overlapping. So now, if I just take a few of these and hide them, you can see the inside has the glowy texture, and the outside has a metallic red, and it's a bunch of little cell pieces. Okay, so now you want it to have physics. So the first thing you're going to do is click one of your objects. And then you can go to the physics tab, which is the dot with another dot orbiting it, just in case you don't understand these symbols. And you're going to click on rigid body. That means a rigid piece of an object. So we can just leave the shape at convex hull. That's usually the best for this. And then this is fine. These settings are fine. We'll change this later. Then you're going to go to surface response. That's pretty good too. Default's fine. Sensitivity is what you're going to want to do. You're going to click collision margin, and then you're going to change this to absolute 0. That means that anything will touch everything by its surface, not clipping on top of it, but it's going to be like that. Then we're going to go to dynamics. This is very important for something like this. So you're going to click deactivation, and you're going to click the drop down arrow. You're going to press start deactivated. This is going to make it so our pieces don't move until they're hit with a force that is 0.4 meters a second. So if we get hit by a force that or higher, then the pieces will start to fall and move with physics. So then we have this, all of these settings, but not these. None of these other cells have the physics on them. So you're going to select your piece that you just added these physics to, and then after that you're going to select all of them. Then you're going to go to Object, Rigid Body, Copy from Active. That's going to copy all of our rigid bodies physics to each of the pieces. Now, if I didn't do that, then just this piece would have the physics, and then when we press play, nothing happens. That sounded stupid. Okay. So then, you have the physics, select it, object, rigid body, copy from active. That makes all of these pieces have the physics. So now that they all have the physics, that's great. But what if you say this one, you wanted this to be a concrete wall? I don't think a 1 by 2 by 2 meter piece of concrete is 1 kilogram. I need to change that. That should be pounds. It shouldn't be 1 kilogram. So we need to fix that. So we're just going to select one of them and then select all of them. Then we're going to go to Object, Rigid Body, Calculate Mass. Now, you're going to find the object in real life that you prefer. For now, I just used the concrete. So you're going to, if you want it to be the same as my tutorial, just choose concrete. And that's going to make each of these pieces really heavy. See, this is a piece, this is really small. Here, let me change it here. There we go, okay. Sorry for you people who are not in the US seeing this, but I am in the US, so I'm going to use what I am familiar with. So this apparently is 1 foot by 7 inches by 2 feet. So, no, that's 0.7 feet. Okay, whatever. This piece is a very small piece, relatively. You want to make sure that all of these pieces have a weight, and all the pieces now have a mass, a very heavy mass, and that's what we want. So now that these are all have physics, now we want to go Shift A and add a plane and scale it by like 10. Nope, that's not gonna work. So 15. There you go. That's a pretty big plane. And then nothing's gonna happen because these are held still, and this is just a plane. Nothing's gonna happen to it. So now we need to go and add a rigid body physics to this. But if it's active, it's just gonna fall out of the world. The plane's just gonna fall out of the world. We don't want that. We don't just want it to just fall out of the world. So we need to go from type active and to go to passive instead. And when we go to passive, it makes it so it's a physics object, but it doesn't move. So then, you know, when you want to change your collision margin again to 0, then after you change that, you can up the friction and the bounciness if you want, but I just keep these at the default because they're fine. You can turn that up to like 7.5. So that's all fine. So the plane is now set up. Now the complicated part is setting up a ball to come over and hit it. Now you can tell me in the comments if you want different ideas for things to smash into it. But for now we're just gonna add a ball. We're just gonna add a UV sphere, or any of these objects actually would work. So you just choose a UV sphere, and then we're gonna go on here so we don't mess it up. We're gonna grab this and move it away from our box. So you can see it's just a ball, regular ball, and we are going to keyframe animate this with physics. So what we want to do is add a rigid body to this and click animated. When we click animated, it's like the plane, but it's moving. So if I move it, it's going to interact with objects. So if I go here and grab it, it's going to interact with these physics objects. So if it interacts with these physics objects, that's what we want. So it's only 2.2 pounds. That's not that heavy. So let's make it 100 pounds. So now it's really heavy and it's just going to go through these pieces. Maybe. Actually, let's turn this up to like 1,000. Now, since it's just a perfect sphere, we're going to take this and change the shape to sphere so it has a better physics, just better physics overall. So we need to turn down the collision margin on this, and don't need to do deactivation on this. Now we're good. If we uncheck animated, it just falls and hits the ground. So we want to check animated and go to the side view here, shift middle mouse to move around, and we are going to select our ball. Bring up this timeline so you can see what I'm doing. Then we're going to click this button, which is a square with a border around, some corner borders around it, and you have location, rotation, and scale. We're not going to worry about scale or rotation in this video, but what we're going to do is set this to like 100. And what we're going to do is we are going to animate it with keyframes. So if you want this ball to immediately hit, we're going to start doing keyframes here. But for me, I want there to be a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a wait spot at the beginning. Let's put this 120. And then just so if you are rendering, you want to click on the output properties. It automatically puts it at 24 FPS, which for me, that doesn't meet my standards. So I put it at 30 FPS and put it to any I put the length of frames to any multiple of 30. And that usually works out to be pretty good. So this is going to be 4 seconds. Yeah, this is going to be a 4-second render, if I render it. So we're going to take our sphere here at, let's say, frame 30, and we are going to go over to the this tab. I forgot what it's called, the transform tab, and we are going to we're going to hover over it with our mouse and press I with our keyboard. When we press I with our keyboard, these diamonds show up on the dots, and the spot shows up yellow. That means that spot in this ball in this space and time is going to be here. Doesn't matter what you do to it. You can grab it, and it moves back there. So it's now keyframed to this location. It will not move anywhere if you keep this keyframe here. If you delete it, then it's just going to do whatever. But now we need to have it hit the cube. And you're asking, how is it going to hit the cube from being over here to there? Well, I'll explain to you how we do that. So we're going to go to like 5 frames ahead, maybe less if you wanted it to go faster. But then at 5 or so frames away, we're going to grab the ball and put it inside of the cube where you want it to hit. Now, I want to move it down a little bit to about right there. So that's fine. So that's a good spot for now. So then you're going to go back over to this tab, this section, I don't know what it's called, and then you're going to press I again. So now the ball is animated. So between these frames, it will go between those 2 locations. So now, if we play it back, it's going to hit it and smash everything. But the ball isn't acting with physics, and we want it to act with physics. So it rolls along the ground with all the other pieces. So what we need to do is we need to go the frame before it hits. So this frame, we're going to go to the physics tab, and we're going to press I over the animated. Or you could just click this diamond, whichever you prefer. Then you're going to go 1 more frame with the arrow keys. You can click the arrow keys to go through frames. And then you're going to go 1 frame ahead, uncheck animated, and keyframe that. What that does is it makes, because when it's animated, you have to animate it. But when it's unanimated, it just falls to the ground with physics, and the gravity takes over. So when we do that, and where it's already going super fast, and then we unanimate it to where it's falling with physics, then it looks really nice. See, now it hits it and the ball falls. But since all these concrete pieces are so heavy, the ball doesn't go through. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this 10,000 pounds. And then watch it go. So now the ball just rolls straight through. But I don't want the ball to fall off. So we just have to kind of go to where it works best and kind of just fiddle with it to where it's the best. I kind of like that, so I will leave it at that. If you want to, you could make the scene smaller. You can do whatever you want with this. That's what Blender's for. But that's all we were doing for today, is making the ball hit the cube. And if you want to make the ball like a shiny, glossy metal ball, we can go down here to the Materials tab. Material Properties, add a new material, and then turn the metallic all the way up. It's actually pretty good there. And then we're going to go down to the roughness here, and if you want that perfect glossy, perfect reflection, then you're going to turn the roughness basically off. And it looks like a disco ball right now, and we don't want that, so you're going to right click on the object and press Shade Smooth. So now it's a perfect reflection. There's an HDRI in the background already, automatically. Not there, it's just there in the look dev view. And so now you have a really shiny mirror ball. But that's not what I used in my animation. If you look at this freeze frame here of my tutorial, wow, my intro, there is metal balls smashing into the cube. And you don't really see them because I make them disappear because I didn't want them in the scene. So we're going to make it like that. It's where it's like a metal ball, but kind of. So what you're going to do is slowly turn the roughness up till there's a reflection, but you can't really tell what the reflection is. So now it's just a rough metal ball. And you can tell because it's shiny and it's gray. You can change any color. You can change this to any color you want. For now, I'm just going to leave it at white because I like that color. I like the shiny gray color. And then with the floor, you can just give it, in my case, I made it blue and metallic. I made it blue and metallic in my video, in the intro. Then, if you are going to render out this scene, let's say you want, like, this view of the cube getting destroyed. You want to see it from this angle. Oops. You want to see it from this view. I also went to rendered view, so this is what it'll look like when it's rendered out. So I want to see it from, let's say, here. So we're going to go Shift A and go down to camera. The camera is now in here. You just can't see it. It's inside of there. Gotta move this. Nope. Select it. Move the camera out of the collection. There. Okay. So let's get the ball. Take it out of the collection. See, this is the trouble sometimes with collections. Anyway, so now we have a camera, but I'm not looking through it. If I look through it, I'm inside of blocks. So I don't want to be inside. So you're going to press Control Alt Numpad 0. And when you do that, it's going to bring the camera to your view. So now it's looking to where I wanted it to look. So everything inside of this perforated line is, this dotted line is going to be shown up in the render. So I don't want this, I don't want this to be clipping out. I want to see the whole thing. So I'm going to go over here to this tab that you can make it appear or disappear with N. You're going to click on View, and go down to Camera to View. It's going to be View Lock, Camera to View. So now, if you move your camera around, if you move your view around, it's going to change where the camera is. So I want the whole thing to be in the shot. So I'm going to do this with the ball kind of towards us. And then you're going to uncheck that, because if you don't, it's going to mess you up and make you super pissed. So just a warning there. Don't leave that on. Make sure to check that off. It's very important. Makes me very upset when I forget to uncheck that. So now our scene just kind of looks blank. This isn't metal anymore because it's in rendered view. This is what we're going to see in the render. See, if we render this quickly, this is what we're going to see in the render. A gray ball and our cube in the floor. And no background at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and add in a HDRI. So we're going to click on the world options here, and we're going to click on this button, and we're going to go to environment texture. It's going to make everything pink. Don't think it's funny. That's what programs, not just Blender, that's what programs do when something has errored or isn't able to load, is a bright pink and sometimes checkered black and pink. So I'm going to go in and get a HDRI that I have, and I'm just going to get a sunflower HDRI from HDRI Haven. So I've loaded it in. It takes a second. So now if we look around, however far we zoom out, there's a world around us in 3D. It's pretty cool, right? Now there's accurate lighting on our scene. But I don't want this in the background. That's stupid. I don't want this to be a floating plane in the middle. I don't want this to be a floating platform in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to go to, where is it? I believe it is this tab, the tab with the camera. We're going to go down to film, and we're going to click transparent. That's going to make the background just transparent, and you can put whatever you want behind it. So now our ball is reflective, and it's reflecting the scene, but it's also not showing the scene behind us, so that's good. And so now when we render it out, it's going to look different. It's going to have the transparent background in it. We still don't want that, and there's a few things we can do. Either one, we can just add a wall, like copy this and put it up behind it on these two sides, which we can do. And something that can help that is turning the render engine to cycles. Now, if you don't have a good computer, this will not work very well. So when you click this, it's going to take a second, and then it's going to load super realistic lighting. So now you can see that it's very grainy, so you can't really move around and see what's going on. So you're just going to have to sit there and wait for it to load in. And I like the way this ball looks. It's reflecting the ground and the cube on the side there, and the cube looks really cool. So now we're going to go to motion blur and enable that, and we're going to go, oh, there it is. So now if we render this out, let's change this render down to like 32 for now, because I don't want it to take very long. So when you render cycles, it's a lot different. You have to wait for everything to load in, and then these tiles are going to show up. And when these tiles show up, they load all this stuff in. And so when they load this in, I need to change that tile size. It's really grainy. Look at that. It's like annoyingly grainy. And I don't want this. I want it to be smooth and look good. So if you don't have a good computer, or you're on a time crunch, the best way to make it look good, or there's actually two ways to make it look good for faster cycles renders, is go down to denoising and check this render. And if you have an NVIDIA GPU, you can choose this optics one. But personally, I don't yet, so you need to choose. So if you don't have that, you need to choose Open Image Denoise. You can choose any one of those. NLM, I think, is the built-in one. Or no, Open Image Denoise is that one. But this is pretty good in itself. So now, 32 is really low for a render. This is what you're seeing in the view part. It's going to render this. So now, since I have denoising on, what we're going to do is press render or render image. It's going to do the same thing it did last time, but some extra tiles are going to come in after it. It's this one tile. It's going to take a little bit longer, so I'll speed this up and I'll show you what it does at the end. It's only fuzzy like this because you can only see so many pixels. But now it is smooth and looks like a real life image. Well, has real life lighting. Now you can even see a circular shadow of the ball from the light in the background and a shadow on the cube of the ball there also. I think there's a shadow here too of it. But that makes it so much better. It looks great, and it's just overall a lot better. Now, as you saw, it was tiny little squares, outline squares that were going around it. And for my computer, that's not optimal. So we're going to go down to performance, and I have a thing enabled. So we're going to go to edit preferences, and we're going to, instead of typing self-fracture, we're going to type in auto, and then down here there's going to be render auto tile size. You're going to enable that and go to the performance tab on the camera thing. So then you're going to click on that, and that's going to set your auto tile size. You're going to, I know mine is a interesting thing. Why isn't it autoing? Anyway, so it should give you an auto thing and give you the best size. It was doing 16s, but for me it's like relative this to this. So let's do this. So I guess it's this then. Okay, whatever. So when you do that, it's going to give you the optimal tile size. It's going to give you the best tile size. Don't worry about mine. It's going to give you the best tile size for your render. So not only with the open image denoise and the small samples, when you press render, either these tiles are going to be bigger or they're going to be smaller. Depending on your computer's power, they will be bigger or smaller. For me, they ended up getting bigger than the originals, but that's fine. That's just because I'm using a pretty good computer. But yeah, see, look, that finished in a few seconds instead of half a minute. Even though that's pretty fast. So that's a pretty good render there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we can go here and go into the look dev so it's not weird. And we can press Shift D to duplicate this. And then we can rotate it on the Y axis by 90. So now it's a wall. Go to the camera and grab this on the Y, or no, grab it on the X. And then pull this away, put it back there, then rotate it on the Z. And then I'm just moving it around. And pull it back. Right there. Okay. So now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna reduce the blue. I'm gonna reduce the blue bit because it's a little too much. So, oh, that's changing both the colors of them. Okay. Well, let's just go to like there. Alright. Now we have our scene. When we, no, not that one. Not that button. When we render the image, it's going to have the wall in it now. The wall's gonna be there. So that's good and that's fun. But I'll show you how to render stuff in the next video. That will be the next video. How the best way to render stuff out and the optimum things that you should press for beginning and intermediate renders. So this is pretty good. It's a ball smashing into the cube. It looks cool in rendered view. But yeah, then you can even just render this out and it looks pretty cool in itself. So you can just render this out and it will look pretty cool. So yeah. So that's what you do to make the falling apart cube in Blender. That's how you use the Cell Fracture add-on in Blender.